Browns wrapping up OTAs here in Berea. The last practice open to the media today. And as usual, as has been the theme, Odell Beckham not in attendance today. Of course, Antonio Callaway was also not in attendance. Jarvis Landry was on the sideline. So we haven't gotten much of a look at that top receiving core. We'll get to that, but let's get to this Odell Beckham thing because it's kind of the story that's not going away, because today Freddie Kitchens, he was asked what Odell Beckham missed during OTAs and he seemed a little perturbed. He said a lot, and then he added the offense.
Yeah, it's the first time that Freddie has not staunchly defended Odell Beckham for not being at these voluntary practices. I think he finally got to the point where he wanted to send a message. When he was asked, what do you want to see from him next week during the mandatory minicamp, he said, I just want to see him. And you know what? That says something. I think these guys now are finally saying, yeah, you know what? We want people that are all in. We needed you here. And I think it was significant.
Yeah, Scott, he couldn't really say a lot about it before today, but of course now that this becomes mandatory, some stronger language from Freddie.
Yeah, nothing like I want to say I love you, like he said earlier this year. So there wasn't that. When we get to the mini camp and we see Odell on the field, I think that's when we're really going to find out how big of a deal it was that he wasn't here for the voluntary OTAs. Because if there's a sense that he seems confused, or if there's coaches kind of directing him to go in different places and he doesn't seem to be aligned with everybody else, if him and Baker are just off, then I think then you can kind of point to, okay, well, maybe he should have been here. If not, then I think this story goes away really quick.
And one of the things that stood out, of course, Antonio Callaway not here, it really is when you see that first team offense, it looks very different because Baker Mayfield is throwing to guys like Ishmael Hyman, who had a nice catch and run today. Dorian Baker has been getting some reps, Jalen Strong as well, but you know, you're seeing he's kind of forcing the ball to Rashard Higgins in spots. It's tough to get that rhythm. So, Mary Kay, we haven't seen this wide receiver core in its whole at all, and that's really been probably the most hyped side of this roster.
Yeah, not only that, I mean, when you looked out there today, you didn't have David Njoku either. So Njoku, Callaway, Duke Johnson's not here. We really haven't seen this Cleveland Browns offense to date. And I do think that's somewhat significant. Again, they can catch up, but as Freddie pointed out, they have installed the entire new offense. It's a collaboration of pieces and parts from different guys and different philosophies. They've had 8 installs. They finished them this week. There are a lot of guys that haven't been here for many of those or all of them.
And of course, we should also mention Jarvis Landry was here today, but he's not practicing. He actually won't be back for the mandatory minicamp next week, at least on the field, as they take precautions with him. So, Scott, as you've watched this offense without that group, what have you thought?
I think Baker is probably having flashbacks to the middle of last season when he was without so many wide receivers. You know, the Chargers game comes to mind, and you know, he's used to throwing to receivers that maybe aren't considered the top talents on the team. I think if there's one player who's really looking forward to minicamp, it's Baker, and being able to really get timing down and just get used to throwing to the people he's expecting to throw to during the season.
All right, Scott, give me somebody who stood out to you over the 3 practices we watched.
Oh, geez. I think, you know, seeing the front 4 on defense has really been, it's weird in OTAs because you can't sack the quarterback. Everybody pulls up, or you take a wide angle, and coaches just let the play go and let the quarterback get the ball off. But there were a lot of times, even today, when you have your ends just, you know, handshaking in the backfield behind Baker or whoever's at quarterback. You have the push up the middle, and it's clear that defensive line is going to be a big deal for another team to deal with, and I think we have to wait so long to see it actually full go. But just that defensive front 4 has been impressive, I think.
Mary Kay, what stood out to you?
Well, before we get to that, real quick, Freddie also said he's optimistic they can still sign Gerald McCoy. So that defensive line that you're talking about could get that much better with a 4th starter who's a Pro Bowler. So we'll have to see how that goes, but that is still out there. One person who has really stood out to me in this camp has been Kareem Hunt. He looks really good. He's explosive when he's running the ball, and he's catching the ball all over the place. And he's really gotten a lot of reps, obviously, with some of the other guys missing. So I think when he gets back in Week 9, they're really going to be onto something there.
And I think the secondary is going to be a lot of fun to watch. We've seen Greedy Williams and Denzel Ward now working with the first team. Terrence Terrence Mitchell came up with an interception today off of Drew Stanton. So I think this secondary has a chance to be very exciting to watch, starting with those two corners. Next week, it is mandatory mini camp, so everyone should be here. Freddie Kitchens said he's excited to get the full team in here. It'll be our last chance to get a look at them before training camp in July. We'll have full coverage of it all at cleveland.com/Browns.